Let's continue on with the second half of the sentences. Hote ho Jesus en tais synagoges ton hoidaion edidasken epipan tito sabato hoi pharisaioi eperoton tini exousia ekenus tous logos lale. Wow, there's a lot going on here, isn't there? Well, let's break it up in the obvious ways. We've got a comma here. That's just helpful. But we also have this. I'm not just cheating. I'm taking slight advantage of that comma. But notice we have another nominative here. I have underlined that twice. We don't need to underline it twice. And a verb. So let's go ahead and assume this is a second part of the sentence. So we'll get that out of the way. Number one, we have, so in the first part, Jesus, entais synagogue, in the synagogue. Okay, again, one of those words. I seem to be breaking this self-imposed rule more and more, but again, synagogue is pretty easy to recognize. So let's go ahead and translate that while we have it. Edidasken. Jesus edidasken. Oh, and you know what? I'm going to take this genitive. I should have included it because, as I've said in a previous sentence, the genitive case frequently follows closely upon, and sometimes before, but usually right after that verb, the noun of which it's the genitive of. So there you go. Epipantito sabato, another prepositional phrase. Great. So have we gotten the first part of the sentence yet? Yes, we have. Second part. For the Pharisees, what were they doing? Eperoton. Tini ekousia ekenus tous logos lale. Okay, I don't even know what to do with it. There's another verb here at the end. How's that? Tini ekousia. Okay, that's goes together. What ekousia? They go together. Don't know what that is yet, but we'll put them. We'll notate those go together before we jump into translating it. Lale, ekenos tous logos. Those go together. Probably a direct object. Tous, of course, goes with logos. Ekenos goes with logos. Okay, that's fine. Again, I'm trying to demonstrate that it's okay not to know what to do with these words right away. I'm trying to provide a format, a method for you to follow. And so it's okay. It's okay to not know what to do with it. Let's just take them a little bit at a time. Let's go back to the first part of the sentence. Jesus was teaching. Jesus, of course, nominative, singular, masculine. And teaching, third person, singular, imperfect, active, indicative. In the synagogues of the Jews, tone. So Jesus was teaching in the synagogue of the Jews, epipanti, upon every Sabbath. On every Sabbath. That's fine. This is the prepositional phrase. Epi governs this case here. The panti to sabato. Great. Given that, okay, whenever Jesus was teaching, let's keep that same word order. Whenever Jesus in the synagogues of the Jews was teaching. Now that we know the grammar, let's move that verb into the English position, if you will. Subject verb, we like that in English. Given that, or whenever Jesus was teaching in the synagogues of the Jews every Sabbath, hoi Pharisee, the Pharisees, what were they doing? Again, we have the imperfect third person plural, imperfect, active, indicative. They were asking, Tini ekousia, by what authority? Lale, he was saying, and again, who is he talking about? Jesus was saying all these words. So, when Jesus in the synagogues of the Jews was teaching every Sabbath, the Pharisees were asking, by what authority those words he was speaking. How's that? And notice, I kind of stuck with the word order of the Greek. because I think it's helpful in some ways. Then we can make it better English. But I think when you stick with that word order, it's helpful to keep those words together. You know what I mean? So it's a little stilted in English, admittedly, but it's helpful. And yes, I'm spending a lot of time on this first sentence because wow, it's a big one. So let's move on to number 12. Hoi anthropoi ho didaskusin ton logon tuthio autoi edidaskanto me keirusen en polo chrono. Subject, verb, direct object, genitive. And then we have what looks to be another verb. Me keirusen, infinitive, complementary infinitive. En polo in much time. So the men nominative plural masculine. So the men, those who are teaching the word of God, hotoi, were they taught? Third person plural. This is your middle voice or your passive. Imperfect. Passive indicative. IND. Indicative. Not to preach. It says in much time. Moment of truth here. It's a confusing sentence. I'm not even sure what it means in English. So let's just understand the grammar of here. The men, those teaching the word of God, were they taught not to preach really for a long time, for much time? And again, notice I'm keeping the word order. I'm not sure. I'll just say it. It's the most successful sentence to learn from. Okay. Lots in number 13. Hodeuk ethelen epende te gonaiki tu kuriu autu. Ho kuriosmu su u genoske dime uden entoiako autu. Kaipanta hosa esten auto edoken. Estas kerasmu. Totet pos poeso torema toponeron tuto. Really need to break this up. Really need to break this up, as you can imagine. Ethylene. And we're going to put that right there. Hodeuk ethylene. Great. Epen. We know that means saying, to say or speak or along those words, so we're not surprised to see the dative case here. And that ends that section. Helpful hint with the dot here. Kurios is the subject. Genoske. Uden. I'm going to say that's the direct object. Entoioko. And because, okay, entoioko obviously goes together. Why am I going to bring this genitive in with it also? Because, number one, as I've said before, the genitive often is placed right after the word it's the genitive of. And so we're going to bring that into it. So if you have a genitive, the genitive is not going to be alone. There's no mystery. The genitive means of, possession. Of what? Oh, well, it goes with oiko. Why? Because it's right next to it, and that's where the usual place. That's where my bets are going. Not always right, but in this case, it's so incredibly consistent. And moreover, we have a kai right after that, Kai pantaosa esten auto edoken. And edoken. He has given, and it says given, so it's not surprised that we have auto there. Okay. Aistas keras goes together. Oh, aistas keras, and once again, just like before, aistas keras mu. And then we have this part again. Lots of different sections. Okay. Let's just jump right in. Hodeuk ethylene. He was not willing. Right? Third person singular, imperfect, active indicative. He was not willing. And, the day, post positive there. He said to the wife, again, to the wife, of his master. This is all genitive. This group right here is all genitive. He said to the wife of his master. And then this is what he said. O Lord, O my Lord, he is not concerned. There's a note in here. Be aware, concerned. Note 9 says, he is not concerned or aware about me. Nothing. About anything. He is not aware about anything. En toi oko autu. There's that genitive. In his house. And Edoken, he has given, all pantahosa, all the things there are, all the things that there are, he has given to him into my hands. Or everything he has, everything there is. Okay. Everything he has to him, meaning everything he has in his respect, he has given into my hands. How will I do? And there's another note on number 10. Rhema can be translated as the thing. How am I able to do this ponderous, weary, terrible, evil thing? I'm just thinking of translations for Poneron. Wow. A lot to get on, to grasp in this sentence. Break it up into these little units. The overall picture, what's happening here? I must confess, when I translate sentences, sometimes I have to come up with a scenario. And obviously with New Testament Greek, it's easy enough to come up with a scenario. I mean, you know the scenario. I am at a total loss of what's going on here, to be honest with you. But that's okay. We want to understand the grammar in this case. So that's fine. Number 14. Kai erota auton ho basileus krufaios epin, esten logos para kuriou, kai epin esten. So, a lot here. Subject, verb. Really, this is the verb. This is the let me change this here. This is the verb. Because this, as it says, is the infinitive. And then we have an if. And so that's a unit here. Esten logos, all right. Kai. Oh, so this is another little unit in there. Kai epen. A little helpful hint there. Lots going on again. So, but this is the subject. Nominative singular masculine. The king. Erota, third singular imperfect. Active. Indicative. Was asking him. Accusative. Singular masculine. Was asking him secretly. To say. So, we're going to keep as much as we can in order. And he was asking him, the king was asking him secretly to say if there is esten. Remember, I said earlier, sometimes you've got to throw in, especially when the word order, when the is comes first, it's helpful to put in English the there. There is a story, a word, para, I neglected to put that in there, from the Lord. And he said, esten, there is. This is nominative singular masculine for this verb. So let's look at it one more time. Kai rota auton ho basileus. And he was asking him, meaning the king was asking him secretly to say, and notice I'm trying to keep that same order, if there is a word or a para from the Lord, comma, and he said, ... just one dot, but you get the idea. There is. Number 15. Aute elale, ente cardia, and again, he's really building this up appropriately so. Putting that genitive right next to that word that it's the genitive of. And that's okay. So keep that. I get tripped up. I see the ente cardia. I want to close that loop right there. No, if there's a genitive there, bring it into it, because that genitive is going to go right next to the word that it's the genitive of. Consistently. Always? No. Consistently? Yes. Kai phone autes eugeneto. This is a genitive. Eugeneto. So, nominative singular feminine, and she, third person singular imperfect active indicative, and she was saying ente cardia, in the heart. Whose heart? Her heart. In her heart. And phone, the voice of her voice, not was being heard. Third person singular. This is your passive, the imperfect passive indicative, and her voice was not being heard. And she was she was speaking ente cardia, in the heart of her, in her heart, and her voice was not being heard. 16. Eroton auton, hoi periauton, sun tois dodeca, tas parabolas. Well, hoi is your subject, and we'll start right out with the verb. Those nope, not going to address it. Let's get the accusative in here. I didn't follow my own advice. Accusative singular masculine, periauton, sun tois dodeca, tas parabolas. Those, the people, hoi, kind of the substantive use. Those, your nominative. Around him, periauton. This is your accusative singular masculine. With peri, and notice it's not just about him in a metaphysical sense. It's the physical. Those people physically around him. Eroton, we're asking, or dodeca, about the parables. Sorry. They were asking, third person, plural, imperfect, active, indicative. They were asking him, those around him, with those 12. I neglected to bring into, I was completely wrong on that one. I'll edit that out, don't worry. With those 12. Dodeca doesn't change forms. Threw me a little bit. It's okay. Regroup. And again, I'll edit it out so you won't know any better. They were asking him, those around him, with the 12, asking him about the parables. Accusative, plural, feminine. Eroton means to ask. In the sense of to ask. We're questioning. How's that? In other words, if you're asking me, when I say ask about, and hypothetically you're asking, where do I get the about? It's included in the verb. And if that bothers you, then use the word questioning. They were questioning, because in English, what's the difference between questioning and asking about? They were questioning him, those around him, with the 12, about, or they were questioning the parables. Number 17, alethos hotos hoanthropos huios theu ein. This is an adverb. This is your subject. Well, this is the subject. This is the adjective that modifies the subject. So we should really only underline the subject. The one word that is the subject, because everything else, the article modifies it, the adjective modifies it. And that's fine. Yeah, and so this is your verb. He was. Third person, singular, imperfect, active, indicative. And so clearly, or truly, this man was what? The Son of God. And all these, look at these nominatives. Nominative. And so yeah, it's tough in this case because you're going to group up the you want to group up the hutos, hoanthropos, huios. When do you put the hein in there? The ain. When do you put the was in there? And in some ways, you just can't, I don't want to say guess. Grammatically, it can go in a couple different places. This is the most logical translation, I think. 18. Parabolais polais elale autois ton logon kathos edunanto akuen. verb. Where's the subject? We don't have it. These two go together. Parabolize, police, they go together. This is remember, this alale is a verb of giving, showing, or telling. So telling, we're not surprised to see the dative case here. This is the accusative. He was telling to them. Don't want to get ahead of myself, but you'll just see this over and over again. He was saying to them what? This is your accusative. And this is another verb in the infinitive. So, by means of many parables, he was speaking to them the word. And likewise, they were capable to listen. We've got two verbs here. And there's not that, we're missing this helpful break here, aren't we? That they put in previous sentences. That's okay. Take it by group by group by group. And we don't have a subject. We don't have an express subject. A little complicated, isn't it? We're getting more complicated and more complicated, but that's all right. 19. Agapetoi uk entolein kainen grapho humin al entolein palayan hein echete apargas. Arpargas, that goes together, that's fine. Agapoi, he's addressing. This is your vocative. Favored, beloved. This is your accusative. Okay. Grapho is your subject, is your verb, and it's a subject. And if we're writing, we get words of giving, showing, or telling. As I said in the previous sentence, writing includes it. Oh, no surprise to see a dative. No surprise to see a dative here. Entolane, this is your direct object here. Ekete, not, the but goes with the uk. Not a new commandment, but an old commandment. How do I know this? Just a parallelism. Look at here. This, and I can, I'll change the color. Uk entolane graphein, al entolane palayan. See, so it's not an old one, but a new one, which you have had from the beginning. And so we're going to put these together. Beloved, not an old, a new commandment I am writing to you, but an old commandment, which this is feminine to agree with the commandment. You have had op arches from the beginning. Arches, interesting. We get archetype from it. For archetype is the first one. Arches from the beginning. Number 20. Edidasken gartus mathetas autu kai elegen autois hotihohuios tu anthropu paradidotai. Aisa keras anthropon kai apoktenusin auton. Break this one up. Edidasken, tus mathes, kai. So we have here, he was doing this and that. That, and what was he doing? That, and we have a new sentence here. Subject, verb. So he was saying that. So he was saying two things. This would happen, and this would happen. So, gar edidasken, he was teaching, third person, singular, imperfect, active, indicative. He was saying, he was teaching. What do we word? We get a word from didasco. I can't think of it at the moment. He was teaching the disciples, his disciples, autu, genitive. Notice, my goodness gracious, the placement of the genitive right after that noun. His placement. And elegant, third person, singular, imperfect, active, indicative. And he was saying to them, there's your dative case. No surprise with his verb. That the son, nominative singular masculine, of man, genitive singular masculine, will be betrayed into the hands of people. And by now I've learned, put this parentheses after that, because even though anthropon is the genitive and aiskeras is a preposition, this is one time, or this is many times we've seen, where that genitive does not get inserted in that prepositional phrase, but in some ways stays outside of it, but is still part of the group. In other words, sometimes you expect for the prepositional phrase the into, the preposition, and the noun to be at the very end, and any of the qualifying things to be in the middle, make a nice little nest, but that genitive consistently will sit just outside of it. And so you've got to remember this is part of that, the genitive is part of that group too. That's all I'm saying. In other words, into the big hands or into the tall hands, any adjectives would be nested in between, inside that prepositional phrase. With the genitive, it will sit outside. And this is they will kill him. So they will kill him. Just a new sentence, new section within a section. Third person, plural, indicative, active indicative. Sorry. And there's your direct object for that. Wow. I hope you feel a sense of accomplishment. There's a lot in these sentences. Really, really, really getting a lot, and that's good. Take the time. Take them as they come. And if the sentences are harder, because there's some really hard sentences in here, don't get down by that. Okay. It's swinging two bats. You know what I mean? It's building that Greek muscle. And so don't get discouraged. Stick with it. It's all gonna work out. Let me know if you have questions.